Yeah.
we're glad to have you here. Like genuinely, this is absolutely amazing for us. Like I've listened to so many of your books, not to fangirl for a minute, but so many of the books that you've narrated, and then so many of the books, or not so many because you've, but like there's not a lot of audiobooks that you've written or co-written, but there's some. I've listened to all of them. But all of the like a lot of the books that you've narrated I've listened to, so it's just like nice to it's interesting. It's a different like feel talking to you and hearing your voice than like sitting at the
Right.
office and like typing on my computer and hearing you. So
That's actually
yeah.
really interesting. That's an interesting observation that you just made. I don't know that I've ever had that particular conversation with somebody. Like, I don't think anybody's acknowledged the difference between, because if you're listening to me tell a story, like that's one-sided, and I'm obviously not
Mhm.
actually there. And so it's the same
Yeah.
place, it's the same experience, but you have to kind of tell yourself, no, that human is there, and we're actually having a conversation now.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like I'm navigating to a different part of my brain.
Right.
Like when I listen to you, when for example, like I listen to a lot of books at work. So that side of my brain is like, I'm turned off. I'm just on autopilot, just like listening to you talk. And now it's like I'm engaging in it. So it's an entirely different feel. So yeah, we're just glad to have you here. So
Yeah. Yeah. We're playing it cool, but we're both pretty geeked about it. To be
yeah.
so honest.
Well,
Yeah.
I am too, and I do like a fair amount of like social media interview kind of things, lives and stuff there. I was very excited when my team was like, "You're gonna do a podcast." I was like, "I love to do podcasts."
Oh,
Like
Cool. Yeah.
just having the conversation and then letting them kind of share it, and then it's out there. I like that's yeah, rather than like seeing how many people are there, and then people are throwing comments in, and then there's like.
yeah. And the like different types of graphics on screen, you're like, oh, thanks for the rose. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, we can start
Shall we
the
dive into
episode.
it? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You
All
want to count us
right.
down?
Yeah. All right. We are recording still. Okay. In three, two, one. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the What Was That podcast. I'm Jazzy.
And I'm Addi.
As you know, one of our favorite topics to talk about is romance novels.
Absolutely. Romantasy, dark romance, romantic comedies. We're here for it all.
And the best way we like to consume these books is through audio. However, voice actors can truly make or break a listening experience.
That's why with every audiobook, I look for certain key voice actors. The inflection and tone can really dictate the listener's entire experience. A dark romance can be either a horror novel or a genuinely fun experience.
That being said, we have a very special surprise guest for this week's episode who knows all about how to give listeners the best experience possible. Please put your hands together for the talented voice actor, author, stage actor, Joe Arden. Clap
Yay!
sounds here.
This is,
Okay.
yeah.
Hi, thank you. I almost said hi when you two said hi at the beginning, and I'm really glad that I waited because then you were like, we have a surprise guest, but I almost blew the surprise.
Serendipitous, honestly. You would have just like blended right in.
Uh,
People would have been like, oh, who's this guy? You know?
Right.
I'm Jazzy, I'm Addy, and I was like, and I'm Joe. Am I supposed to say, am I Joe? And I'm Joe, right?
And I'm Joe.
That'd be cool.
um, If you have not heard this sultry voice before, please let the first thing you do after listening to this be listen to one of the following books. There's Grimm, Under Your Scars, My Soul to Take, Butcher and Blackbird, which is my personal favorite, that entire series, Little Stranger, Flock, and many, many, many more. I mean, the library list is extensive. You could listen for hundreds, if not thousands of hours. So,
Oh, I should try and do something like that math. I bet
yeah.
out there that have like a sense of that. I think it's definitely like a week straight. Like if you,
Easily, yeah,
Literally, yeah.
easily.
Yeah.
I mean,
I we were
24 hours.
looking up your
Yeah.
yeah, we were looking up your entire list, because I mean I know all the books that I've listened to, but we were looking at everything that you've like written and like everything that you've voice acted in, and there are like over, I mean, 300-400 it looked like on just like one of the marketplaces that we looked on.
Yeah, I think they're all on Audible. I believe the number's close to 800.
Oh my
Jesus,
gosh, yeah.
Jesus Christ, Joe, you stay busy.
Yeah, we that's I'm now I'm gonna like have to like lock in for the rest of the year. So
You think
I'm
we can get
terrible at
through it in a
math, but I
year?
was trying to figure out what the. I had somebody reach out and said that they've listened to 600 of the books, which is like
that's impressive.
gotta
That's
be
really impressive.
that's gotta be up there. Only I have like been a part of more of the time than that, so that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Jasmine, did you have a
Um,
favorite? Addison said it was Butcher and Blackbird.
okay,
So
so I'm also really obsessed with Butcher and Blackbird. And I've been going through Flock, and I've been really enjoying that. Addison finished listening to Grimm before I did, and she's like, you've got to. So that is the next one on my list.
I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Grimm was very well written. I think that was like my biggest takeaway from the book was like how well written it was. Like listening to it, I have probably listened to 200 books in the last year, and the way that it was written was so eloquent. And even like in the spicier scenes, I feel like the verbiage was still very eloquent, and I was like, as a woman reading it, I was like, wow, this is really nice. I like this.
Yeah.
Nice. Ah,
But
I'll share that with DJ. We'll both be we're both very pleased to hear that. I can speak for her, I know, and yeah, that means a lot to us. So thank you.
yeah, of course, it was amazing, and the like we were saying earlier, like my favorite was the Butcher and Blackbird series. That like, actually was how I started to piece you together. I had
Hmm.
listened to a few of your books before, but then I listened to Butcher and Blackbird first, and I was like, who is that? Who
Yeah.
is voice acting in this book? And I looked it up, and I was like, okay, well, new favorite person to look for every time I listen to books now, because I
Yeah.
can sit and digest your voice like so easily. As a like voice actors are talented in so many different ways, and every voice actor brings so many different things to the table, but you offer such like a unique sound to every single book that you narrate, and every like you embody the character so well. Like I can
Hmm.
read the words on page, but then listening to you, it's like you dive into it so well.
Yeah. Yeah. You truly do become that character. And I can visualize them so well. And I can visualize like the
Mm-hmm.
mannerisms that they would have and how they would like, smirk at something or whatever, just because like I sit there, I close my eyes and I hear you and I'm like, okay, this is actually this person. So yeah, you're good at your job.
Thank to hear you say that you're able to visualize sort of effortlessly when I voice a story, that means a lot to me because I think that's kind of the goal, actually, because reading is a personal, imaginative experience. And so when you bring an actor in to interpret the text in one way, you've got somebody else that's now crafting something that is still, at the end of the day, your imagination. The visualization of that world still happens for each listener or each reader individually. And so my hope is that it's easy for you and it's easy for somebody else, and that there's still something unique and nuanced and different about each of the imaginings and the visualizations that take place for the reader when I am part of the storytelling experience.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. Like you nailed it. And the way, like how you were saying is that there's like a different experience for each book. Like you do bring that completely. Like there, you can tell that it's the same voice in some ways. Like different inflections or different ways that you say things. Like you're like, oh, that's Joe Arden, but you are an entirely different person in each book, and you bring an entirely different set of rules and an entirely different energy to character in each book. So you never like think, oh, it's like Joe Arden doing the same thing again. Like it's different every like Flock and Grimm are the like perfect examples of that, because in Flock you did a French accent for part of it, and in Grimm you did a French accent, but they were like entirely different characters, and you visualize them entirely separate. Like they were not the same in any way, but it's the same person voice acting them, and I think that's very important when it comes to audiobooks, because you want that definitive line between characters.
Awesome. Honestly, that was the primary impulse for why when I started doing romance, that I wanted to keep my face out of the experience. Because I was like, listen, if I'm sort of no man, if I'm no one, then I can be whatever you want, and I can help serve the author's story in a more specific way.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I know, like let's say I'll hear a celebrity do a voiceover, even if it's in like an animated movie. Like if I watch an animated film and I recognize the voice, like I know what, like take Josh Gad for example. Like I know what Josh Gad looks like. I've seen him. I saw him do Book of Mormon on Broadway, and so like I hear him as an animated character, but like there's part of my brain that's like, but that's Josh Gad. So I was like, as
Right.
Joe, if I can just sort of stay creatively anonymous, then every time I can be, like you said, Tobias or Kane Devereaux or Malachi or whoever it may be, and each time it's just like, hey, I'm I'm in the background, like my identity disappears, and then the characters becomes the whole experience. That was the whole idea. So.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
genius. Yeah, honestly, because I know so many voice actors who have like come out with. I mean, they have all these books with all these spicy scenes, and people online are like lurching after them, and then they see like a picture, and they're like, well, now that whole like idea is not the same, because now they're putting a face to the name every time. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
that it totally
let me
makes
also
sense.
say, anybody that makes a different choice, I have nothing but respect for those people, and I would
Hmm.
find people on the internet to be kind to strangers on the internet. Those people that you're
Yeah.
talking about are people. Say nice things.
Yes.
Say the same
Yeah.
things. Say the same things in your comments and on your feed and in your posts that you would say if you were looking that person in the face.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Be nice and lead with the things that are positive. Um, yeah, I think that there's this expectation that because we are creatives and we're putting ourselves out there in an artistic way, that it gives the consumer sort of carte blanche to say whatever they want. And I
Right.
don't think that's the agreement. Like we're still people. So like can you say whatever you want? I guess you can, but like that's true in your life too. And like do you lead with kindness? Do you ask yourself before you speak, is this a nice thing to say? Is there a reason for me to share this with the person I'm talking to? And if you wouldn't say that to your barista or your boss or your best friend, then maybe don't say it about an artist either.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Like everyone's just doing a job at the end of the day. They're just like everyone's on the same sphere of this globe, and we're all trying to do the same thing, which is
Just,
exist.
yeah, we're all people. I just want to impress
Yeah.
everybody that like we're all people
Yeah.
from your like HVAC repair specialist to Lady Gaga. Like we're all
Yeah.
just all people. So,
Yeah.
all right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So, like, did I
Right.
get
No,
it?
it's okay.
Have I?
No, we talk about that all the time. So I'm really glad that you like share that sentiment, because that is something that like recurringly comes up on our podcast, is the fact that people are
Right.
just hateful for no reason all the
Right.
time.
Yeah. People are very hateful and they forget that nuance exists in many different forms. So,
Yeah. And that something
yeah.
may be true for you and still not necessarily be something that has to actually come out of your mouth.
Yep.
Right. And
Inside
like,
thoughts.
especially
Inside
like social
thoughts.
media, like you can just keep scrolling and you
Hmm.
can tell them, hey, I don't want content like this. Like,
Yeah.
that's usually the easiest thing to do, but
All
whatever.
right. Back
Right.
to
Yeah. So again, thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. A little background about our podcast. Our main theme is horror. So we typically pick a specific topic and then we pull some real life stories off the internet that pertain to said topic and discuss it amongst ourselves.
one thing that does come up a lot, though, is dark romance. That is a trope that we consistently hit on every episode. We're both pretty avid listeners of the genre, so it makes its way into conversation a lot. One topic of conversations we do find ourselves in is the line that divides dark romance from horror. Where is the line? How do authors like yourself toe it? And what is the definitive boundary that takes a book from being a horror novel to being a dark romance book?
And we thought what better way to broach the subject than with an author and narrator who's made a very large impact in the dark romance world. For this episode, we'd like to do something a little different. We're going to start off learning about who Jo is as a person and as an artist, and then we are going to share a story, read it together, with a little bit of a twist.
And the twist is Jo's voice. We'd love to demonstrate how tone and inflection can entirely dictate how something is perceived. So we'll read part of the story in our own way, which is pretty flat. And then we'd love to have Jo read a little bit of the story and see if we can definitively say if it belongs in a horror novel or in a romance novel. So,
Okay. This sounds like fun.
yay! I'm glad that you're on board.
Cool.
We were like,
please, we got questions. This is gonna be great.
yay!
Yeah. So first thing, like, tell us about yourself, Jo. Like, who is Jo Arden?
Well, I think we started in a little bit on that already,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
Jo's a pseudonym that I created to celebrate and tell stories inside of the romance and erotica space. It is a celebration of my background in some way. I came up with the name by applying I had a Springer Spaniel when I was a young boy named Joe.
Oh,
Cute.
cute.
And I grew up on Arden Boulevard in Los Angeles, which actually I'm really excited about. In October of this year, I'm going back to LA to do My Soul to Take, a third version of a stage show. This one is called Unhinged, and I'm going to be performing it basically like 4 blocks. I think it's about 4 blocks from Arden Boulevard, like
Oh,
very
wow.
close.
That's like a
where I grew
very
up.
cool, like
Like,
full circle
yeah,
for
Yeah.
you.
so
Yeah.
I'm very excited about that. So I'm a native Los Angelino. I was born and raised in LA, and yeah, I come from a family of artists, and I am a lover of theater and stories and music. I love to be outdoors. I like hiking and kayaking, and I also really love sports. I like to play sports. I like to watch sports. I really love talking about the intersection between like theater and sports because I have lots of friends that are like, because I played sports. So in high school, I played sports and did theater. So I was like one of those students that like sort of bridged the like click gap in school, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I could like go to the theater after party and also go to the like sports, like it's like that kind of. And I would always talk about the fact that like there's so much commonality between what happens in sports and what happens in drama and in theater. Like basically sports has built-in dramatic structure, and you've got these characters, which are the athletes, and there's this contest. They have antagonistic forces, and they just sort of play out battle scenes. It's like watching great drama, and at the end there's winners and losers, and people are emotionally connected to it, and the audience is invested. And so yeah, I've always loved that and continue to love all that. So yeah, I guess that's a bit about me. That's a bit of background there. So yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. It sounds
That's,
like this was a very natural career for you to get into then.
yeah.
It was. I was very lucky in that, like, I mean, I guess I should say that, like, I feel like I definitely paid my dues to get to where I am. I've been acting
Yes.
since I was 3 years old. Um, my parents got me and my brother into acting when we were very little, and I did some commercials, and I got my SAG card, which is the union for actors, and I did some commercials and then some cartoons and stuff when I was younger, and I did a lot of VO stuff when I was a kid, and I loved what I always loved from a very early age. What I loved about being in a booth and recording was that as a performer, I felt like I could be a little more fearless because I had the script in front of me. So there was like the safety net of like, if I don't have this memorized or if I'm not dialed in, like it will be okay and I can try again. And that space to be creatively free when my body isn't attached to the work.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us, I don't know, I won't speak for anybody but myself. I certainly can be self-conscious about the way that I look sometimes. I can be sort of, I think I can be hard on myself. And voice acting gave me permission to just like let those voices inside my head just be quiet. Like they're not a part of the conversation because they're not invited to the party because we're not doing that here. It's just the voice and these, especially with the audiobooks, these beautiful worlds and characters that these authors have written, wonderful descriptions that everybody gets to just imagine with their own imagination. So I really loved voice acting for that reason. I eventually started doing some theater, stage work. I did a ton of stage work. I've got degrees in philosophy and theater. I hold an MFA in acting, and then moved to New York with a bunch of folks that I did comedy with. And we started doing clubs in the New York area. We traveled around the country doing shows for years. I've done over 300 improv shows, wrote a couple of sketch comedy shows, just did a ton of stuff, some stand up. I hosted, had an incredible time working with people that I really love. And yeah, and then I tried to transition into doing like regional theater and trying to like make it as a stage actor. And that is like a really limiting corner of the entertainment industry. And the top end jobs in the straight theater world, like non-musical, go very often to television and film actors at the highest level. So I couldn't really sing or dance well enough to be a competitive musical theater actor. And then I was like, man, I'm like going out of town and like doing these shows for a couple $100 a week. I was like, I don't know, like I'm loving it, but there's not like a career here. I can't sustain or grow a life from just this. And then I got an opportunity to audition for Audible Studios. And I was like, oh man, like I've always loved literature. I've loved reading my whole life. And now I get to combine this like love of literature and performative storytelling. And I was hooked from day one. I was like, for the next 2 years, I'm going to turn all of my creative energy toward this and see what I can make out of it. And here we are, 800 books later, and I am so grateful and so happy and so humbled by all the opportunities I've been given and all the ones I've helped make and all the people I've gotten to meet along the way. And I'm just really, really, really happy to be here.
Yeah. No, it
That's
sounds like you're a very
yeah.
good uh, case of hard work pays off. Um,
hmm Yeah, it's very much like you were like set up with a goal in mind and you like ran for it, which
yeah.
is incredibly impressive because you don't see that a lot, especially like, I mean, Jasmine and I both work in the entertainment industry as well, besides this podcast, and we know like how tough Hollywood is, or like the entertainment industry in a whole, not even like Hollywood. It's constantly like ebb and flowing, and right now it's like in extreme drought. So the
Yeah.
like persistence and the your ability to like make it to the point that you're at now is really really inspiring. And also I wanted to like circle back to your point about sports and theater. I've been like mining this around in my head, but I graduated as a thespian, and I always like wanted to play sports. I guess I played sports in middle school, so I did like volleyball and track, and I tried to do basketballs and I did softball and stuff. And then when I got into high school, I was like, well, I want to be a thespian, but I can't do both. There's not that room to do both. You're either a theater kid or you're a sports kid, and there's not space to come in between. And that was like very much how especially in like the environment of the school that I grew up in, that was the stigma. Like you cannot cross boundaries. So
Yeah.
and I like there are pieces that like I thought of when I was younger. Like we're all playing parts though. Like is everyone not always playing a
Are
part
we
in
not
anything?
all in this
Yeah,
together?
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, the same was true for me. I was there were two colleges that were interested in having me potentially play soccer there. But if I was playing soccer, it would mean that I wouldn't be able to do theater because theater
Mhm.
takes place after school and on the weekends. And so did the sports. Like practices would happen then and tournaments would happen, games, stuff like that. And then there were other schools that were like, had a robust theater program. And then I thought I'd get a chance to kind of work with some really cool people. And so I did have to make that choice at that point. I'm very happy to say now that I've still found a way to incorporate recreational sports into my life. And I still play soccer, and it's one of my favorite things to do every week. And I found a career in the arts, but I've still found a place to keep my passion and love for sports in my life. So
Yeah. What
Nice.
position do you play?
I'm a goalie.
Very
Nice.
props to you. I am way too scared to be a goalie.
Uh,
Yeah.
can I tell you why I did this? I started playing keeper in high school, and it was because I think I was a little bit of an early fashionista, and I was like, so hold on, I can wear the same thing that everybody's wearing, or I could play this other thing where A, I get to use my hands, and B, I get to pick my own outfit. I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry guys, but I'm gonna do the thing where I get to pick my own clothes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is
see, yeah.
valid.
My mom was my soccer coach. If she sold it like that, that might have actually got me to do it.
There you
Instead, I was
go.
like, you're telling me I have to stand here and let them kick the ball for full force at my face? No, absolutely not.
There,
Absolutely not.
I think, I think, don't quote me on this, although I'm saying this while we're recording this. I believe in the movie Sunset Park that there is a scene where one of the main characters is wearing an Adidas Predator goalie jersey, like out front of his school. And I remember seeing the first time, I was like, "Oh, that's my jersey. That was the jersey I wore in high school. It's the exact same one." And I was
That's
pretty excited.
cool.
I
That's
think it's
super
Sunset
cool.
Park. I
Okay,
feel pretty.
I'm gonna look it up after this, and I will add it into the edit if it's true.
Okay.
It's true.
Okay.
It's a black, red, and purple jersey. And so it was like a skeleton, but a lot of people thought that it was a spider, but it was a skeleton, and it was in like the outline was in black, and then there was like the red on the top, and then like purple down like the ribs, the sides, something like that. So
Okay. All right, we're gonna look for this,
okay.
and I will report back.
I feel like that description is like just difficult enough that like maybe you couldn't
I'm
just
gonna
like
be like,
easily
none of
do
this is it.
that. No, I'm like I feel like it may require like a slightly more intense deep dive, but I'm excited
Yeah, you have to like watch the whole movie and like watch it frame by frame.
to watch Sunset Park. And listen, if you do, it's a very good movie. So there you go.
Yeah.
Um, okay, second question. So we know that you have over 800 books in your library of voice acting and written, but how many books yourself have you written or co-written?
Um, oh, that's a good question. So the first book I co-wrote with Lauren Blakely, it's called How to Get Lucky. And it's about London and Teddy. And I learned a great deal and had a wonderful time. And I love that story. And so that's out there. And then from there, I wrote The Chameleon Effect by myself, which was shortlisted by the Audible editorial staff as the best romance of 2022, I think, when it came out.
Oh, wow.
Very cool.
In the same year, they also put it on the list of the 100 best romance audiobooks of all time, which was a huge honor, and I was very grateful for that. Um, and I like talking about it because I've actually like my I feel like the people that know about me now didn't know about me then. I have a lot of folks that are like, wait, what? You wrote a book back then? And I love the chameleon effect. I love the premise of it. I loved writing it. It takes place in LA. It's really like a love letter to my hometown. And the main character is an actor, and he's just got a lot of my kind of heart and sensibility to him. And he does something that I always imagined doing, but never had the like bravery enough to actually try. But I was like, yeah, but if I'm writing it into a book, like fictional characters can do whatever your imagination thinks up. So I was like, oh, cool. He can do
Exactly.
the thing that I like thought about doing, but was never brave enough to do. So he does that, and yeah, it's a ton of fun. So I loved that. And then let's see, from there, there's a book of poetry I wrote called Shadow Self, that I
Hmm.
really love, and is actually probably of all of the pieces that I've worked on, it is the one that I would most encourage folks to get a physical copy of because I worked with a really wonderful illustrator, and I gave this artist, there's 22, I think 22 or 23 sonnets in the collection. And I gave them the sonnets, and I just said, would you like to make a drawing based on each of these sonnets? And they were like, sure, like we'll all have a crack at it, and then like you can give me notes. And I was very clear up front. I was like, I actually do not want to insert myself into your creative process at all. I trust you as a visual artist. I have a ton of respect for your work, and I would like to commission you to do this. If you want to do it, there really is like no rules, just whatever comes up for you based on how you respond to these sonnets. And they said, okay, that's great. I would like to have a conversation with you about the pieces just to get a little more context. So they read it. We had a conversation, and then they went off and they made unique illustrations, these beautiful fine line black pen drawings for each of the sonnets. And it's really, really cool to look at. And for me, to have like art help create other art and for artists to work together and to be able to collaborate in that way, that's such a joy for me. Because as I said, like going from comedy clubs in Brooklyn, performing for 5 people and like scrounging together rent money to where I am, to be able to be like, hey, like I have an art project. You want to work on something together, and there's money involved, and like we can actually like do a whole thing. That means a lot to me, and I just think they did an amazing job. So that one I strongly recommend if you can like get a copy. It's really cool to look at. So there's that, and then there's Grimm that I co-wrote with DJ Krimmer. That has been out for a little while now, and we're working on the second book in that series, The Lost Souls Chronicles. And I'm excited to have that come out later in 2026. And then I have done 2 full-length stage shows called My Soul to Take. The franchise is the My Soul to Take universe. The first year I did Untethered, and that show went from Boston to New York to Baltimore. And I pulled the scripts together and put them into a bound edition that you can purchase. And then the second year, we went down to New Orleans and we communed with ghosts. And I did My Soul to Take Undead. I wrote 2 interconnected standalone shows. They are original pieces, original shows. And the premise of the My Soul to Take universe is basically taking works from both contemporary romance and classical literature and fusing them together into a night of performative theater.
Wait, I'm obsessed. That sounds so cool.
So one of the things that a lot of people that have listened to my work have said is that they're like, I would love to see you work. You sound like you're moving and acting and like really kind of expressive. And I was like, oh, well, I would love to just like do that. And so what started as just me maybe like performing some work on a stage turned into, well, why don't I like write a show? So I've written these shows that are really about taking a microscope to love, to thinking about what love means, because it's an abstract term at the end of the day. Our concept of love is based on how we receive love in our life, how we show up for love in others. It's a unique word. Like we all think we know what we mean when we say it to each other, and in the romance space, they say it all the time. But it really is unique to the receiver and to the speaker. And so for these shows, I take works as far back as Greek dramas and Shakespeare and Dickinson and Bronte and Austen and Kate Chopin, and set it alongside works from contemporary romance writers like Ariel Anderson and Sadie Kincaid and Darby Breyer and Ruby Darling, and ask questions about what it means to love and how it affects us and what it does to us and the different modes of love and how it presents. And I've written 3 shows, one that first year, 2 the second year, and we'll be writing a new one for a Los Angeles run later in 2026, and that will be
Yeah.
hinged, and we'll hopefully get that in print eventually too.
That's
Sounds
incredible.
like we are going to have to take an LA trip, Addie.
I know. I was already looking
Yeah.
at it actually from the website.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's incredible. And I cannot like understand the sentiment more of we all like the love has a different definition to every single person, because like every single person, I think that is a theme too that comes up in the podcast too, is like we never really know how somebody else wants to receive love, or how they even like how they perceive love. And if one story is like oh, this was weird, but somebody else takes this as like, oh, I would love that. That's something that would mean a lot to me, and that's something that like means a lot to me in books in specific. Is like they really do like play into that fact of like the full scope of love. Like how do you want to be loved? Here's a laundry list, a grocery list of every way that I can show you that I love you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we've been doing it since the beginning of humanity, and as early as we've been telling stories, telling love stories has been central to the human experience because it's so important in our lives. Who we love,
Yeah.
how we're loved, the way love is a part of who we are. I read this article, I think it was in the Atlantic, I can't remember where it was. But there was this series of psychologists that were doing research on like childhood development, and they basically came to the conclusion that whatever you're doing as a parent is not really going to do any amount of sizable damage to a child or help in any way except for one thing: loving that human being. Showing up with love will make somebody else feel safe and seen, valued and protected. And that's really the best and maybe the only thing that we can do for another person in this world. So, of course, we're going to tell stories about it. Of course, we're going to explore it. And I think it's really great to be able to take Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and, you know, some contemporary piece like a Under Your Scars by Ariel Anderson and say, okay, well, how are these characters similar? How are some of these moments connected? They're not connected by time or space. They took place in different universes over 100 years apart. And yet there are themes that are connected, that are universal to storytelling. And it's been a real pleasure to dive into the text and sit in those spaces and try and find those connective points and piece them together. When I'm working on these, my office turns into I don't know if you watch it, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An episode where Charlie Day, it's also become like one of the
The
best,
red line.
it's one of the best gifs on the internet, uh, where he's got all the string.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
what happens when I'm writing on my soul to take. That's what it ends up looking like. I'm like, oh, this piece connects over
Yeah.
here. It's the same
Yeah.
over here. And, yeah. So,
No, I love that. And it's like at least evident to me, and I'm sure evident to people who are going to listen to this, like you are a highly creative person. Um, and you use that lens to kind of look at the human condition, not only as it is today, but as it was and the parallels between it. So yeah,
And not only your perspective. Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm excited to dive into the things that you've done in the past, and also to keep looking at what you're gonna put out. Because yeah, uh, I think it's really cool.
thank you very much. I look
Yeah.
Yeah.
forward to hearing what you think, and I hope you find some stories that excite you and interest you.
Yeah. Why dark romance? So we know why you kind of went into the romance realm, which like we're on a horror podcast and we're talking about love, and I'm like about to cry because I'm so like I feel like the
You
emotion.
feeling the love?
I feel it. I'm like my cheeks are hurting because I can't stop smiling. But now we're like pivoting more towards the dark side of it. Why dark romance? So we started off, with the like the chameleon effect. Like we have like the lighter side, but then we move into stuff like Little Stranger, and Butcher and Blackbird, which is still kind of bordering on the light, but it does go into like the darker side, but definitely like some of the other ones. What motivated you to move into dark romance?
Um, well, the origin story there begins with Jesse Hall's That Sick Love. Um, my introduction to dark romance was through Era Westwood, and I would credit that work, her writing, that moment in my career, and that performance as being a real turning point in what I imagined was possible as a voice actor. The story was so intense and so immersive and so much darker than anything that I had done before. And I was, quite frankly, scared. I had built a supportive community tons of listeners who had told me they loved my work, and oftentimes it would sit inside of a space of very like, again, my background is improv comedy, so like I did a ton of rom-coms and working with Lauren Blakely a lot and Aaron Mallon and all these places where I was able to flex these kind of light, bright comedic notes, and I love doing that stuff. And even some there's like heartstrings kind of romance, like your A.L. Jacksons and your Catherine Cowells, um, and then this book came along, and my team and I were talking about it, and it sounded really interesting, and I could see people online really getting very excited by the story, and I was like, this sounds like it could be something really fun to immerse myself in, and that was really critical to telling Arrow's story the right way, was to truly immerse myself into that space. That to do it the way I thought it should be done required like really kind of the closest I would say I've come to like a kind of method acting experience is now in that sort of dark romance space where I really give myself permission to set a mood and a space for myself that allows me to really think and feel the way those characters do. And
Mhm.
I was very surprised in a very happy way with how supportive a lot of the folks who'd listened to a ton of my work were about that. People that were like trying out a book that they'd never tried out before. I was very intentional going in, and a huge shout out to my team who helped me in so many ways that people don't know about. But one of the ways that my team shows up for me in a really serious way is being intentional with how I show up for the community that listens to my work. And that means we know the stories well enough to be very informative about what may or may not be triggering to people that are listening. And I remember diving into That Sick Love, and I recorded chunks of it inside the Audio Attic, which is a Patreon community that I've set up where I do a fair amount of my live recording. And that was a community that had come to be pretty accustomed to and used to a lot of the lighter fare and some of the fun stuff. And then I was like, hey, here are some of the themes. Here are the chapters. There were like buddy systems going on. Some folks were saying like, I'm gonna tap out. I don't think I'm prepared to listen to that live. Some folks would like literally leave for like one chapter. I had notes for each chapter to say, here are some of the triggers that'll come up this chapter. Here are the themes that we're gonna be diving into. And it was just done by people that really care about doing it right and making sure that people's mental health and their level of comfort is the first thing, while simultaneously making space for people loving different kinds of stories. There's no yucking anybody's yum over here. There's no judgment of the story or what is of interest or what engages people. I wanted to be a part of something that was outside my comfort zone and that might help me learn a few things about stories and people. And it was really well received. I had a really wonderful time doing it. It took a great deal out of me. I remember actually calling Desiree Ketchum the day after we finished recording, and for the very first time in my career, I had to take a day off. I'd never just like, I mean, I've gotten sick and things, but I'm sorry, it was the first time I'd taken a day off because of the work. And I called Desiree and I was like, hey, do you have like, I emailed and I was like, if you have any time, I would, and you want to, I would love to jump on a call and just kind of like check in and decompress with you. And she wrote back and was like, I would actually love to do that. That was super intense. And I was like, yeah, same. And we talked for about 30 minutes about like how intense that was. And it helped me a great deal to just kind of spend that time with the co-star and this other creative, and for both of us to just kind of name how challenging it was to dive into this obsessive leaning tale and with these really dark themes, and then to give ourselves permission to take some time to just touch some grass and breathe some fresh air and release it in a healthy, safe way, and then be able to move on to the next one. So from there, a lot of other roles started to come up inside of that space, and I never really know what I have that I'm working on until it goes out the door, you know. We were also, my team and I, very, very intentional about the research and the prep work that we did before I recorded Little Stranger. Very. It was also recorded in the Audio Attic. And we did a lot of research on dissociative personality disorder. There are these interviews online that you can watch. This man is serving a life sentence for having committed some really heinous things, but he's been clinically diagnosed with this dissociative personality disorder. So he is incapable of expressing remorse. And Malachi is described as having borderline dissociative personality disorder. And the trauma that he suffered created these moral gaps for him, this space where he just can't feel the way other people feel. So I did a ton of research because that's not me. Like, that's not me at all. Like, super sensitive and like, yeah. And so I'm like, all right, well, how can I get into this headspace? And so I watched these interviews, and then I'd also watched the film Coda several times. And what I noticed about Coda is that people in the deaf community are very expressive when they talk. They use their bodies to articulate, so that the sign language really becomes very unique per person. Like it's a language, they use the same words, but in the same way that we use words with our voice, they use their bodies to express interest and intentionality. And so I practiced and I did some research and I started to figure out ways that I could incorporate that into Malachi's performance. So in the book, Malachi has an internal voice, which is sort of smooth and like it's him talking to himself. And then he speaks out loud occasionally, and that's very stilted because he had suffered from selective mutism, and he also signs. And when he signs in the book, I am signing in the booth so that it has that sound and that energy. I tried to be as specific and intentional as I could, and I think that the genre. I won't say that it demands it, but I will say that it invites it, and it is an invitation that I have been all too happy to RSVP to and show up for anytime I get a chance to do a dark romance story.
Yeah. Let me know if you feel that this is true, but listening to you talk about it, it kind of sounds like when you're exploring these different themes that are in dark romance, you're really going into something that you kind of do in your personal time, in your personal creative projects, which is exploring the human condition, but you're exploring it kind of through um, grittier textures, to say. Um, so yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense to me that this is where your career kind of has taken you, because I feel like you're creatively d exploring all aspects of the human experience, good and bad. So, yeah.
Well, I think that um, every person is unique and that everybody's story is uniquely theirs. And our background dictates a lot of the energy that we present to the world. And so, as a performer who is inhabiting somebody else's story, and in my case, two people's story, because it's both the author's story and also then the character they created. So I'm being the character in through somebody else's universe. So you have this sort of double responsibility, I think. And doing hundreds of them requires being as specific as you can each and every time and telling that story in as unique and specific a way as I possibly can. And I think that doing research, asking critical questions about the character, their background, where they come from, physically and emotionally, socioeconomically, geographically, getting a handle on where they came from so that I can understand how they may currently inhabit their space in the world. That has served me pretty well as a creative, and I take that research and that legwork really seriously, and I love doing it.
Yeah, that's really important, especially, I mean, coming into like any sort of acting position, whether it's voice acting or acting, like you really have to do your due diligence to make sure that you're fully embodying that person. Like you're assigning this role to yourself, so you need to be that person, and you need to make sure that like every base is covered, or it's not going to be believable. So it's really admirable that you take that extra step and you do sort of like a like method acting almost. Like, I mean, you don't have to go like the full step because you're not doing like the whole visual portrayal in a movie or TV, but I mean you're taking that time to like, you know, write like your character pages, you know, like you're doing all this research to make sure that your character has a nailed down story from birth to when the story takes place. So And I think that's really important, and it really shines through in a lot of your work, because I mean it's so in depth, and it's so what's the word I'm thinking of that I'm blanking on?
Comprehensive,
Nope.
Immersed.
Immersive. Thank
encompassing,
you.
immersive. Yeah.
Immersive. Thank you.
Mhm.
You were like using your hands in a way that felt like you were taking everything.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you understood. Also, the sign language thing also like really sticks to me because I it was fluent in sign language. I'm still like I still know a bit, but for a long time that was like the career path I thought I wanted to go down. So it's like really important, and I love when sign is brought up and it shows itself in real life because people don't see it as much as they should. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I try and do what I can to be as intentional and know as much as I can about a character and their story. Ironically, I do all of that prep work, but I actually read the books cold. Um,
that's
That's
impressive,
insane.
actually. That's
Yeah.
really, I would never have guessed that. I would have thought that you have read the book front to back like 50 times by
Yeah.
the time that you get.
When I started, I did that. I think that prepping a book is very important because there's key information about the character contained inside of the work that is really critical to understanding who they are and how they should be presented by a performer. So prepping the book is absolutely imperative. Um, to be as intentional and specific and honor the author's vision and voice as much as you can. I found that when I was doing that full prep by myself, reading a book all the way through once or scanning through the book all the way once, that like when I then went back and read it, it was almost like I was reading it for the second time and it was like just a little tougher. I was like, I feel like I'm just kind of trapped in here a little bit. Uh,
Yeah.
Even the best books, like it actually didn't matter how good the book was. It's like if you read, you have any idea how good a book has to be for you to finish it and then immediately read it again, like immediately
Yeah.
Yeah.
again. So, so I was like, yeah, that's not working for me. That's not getting the best work out of me. So, I've set up a system and some practices. And again, huge shout out to my team that helps me in so many ways, where I'm able to get the stories prepped and worked out for me so that I know what I need to know and that the chapters are still organic and come to me. And so what you're hearing are cold reads. Those are the first time that I've read those words out loud.
I imagine it could get kind of
Yeah.
like Truman Show-y if you did read it like multiple times, because if you start to take over, like take on that persona as the person in the book, you're kind of reading it as that person who knows that they're reading this book, if that makes sense. I feel like
Yeah.
I would like feel a little
Yeah.
Matrixy
Call the
if
truth
I
inside the house.
yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, just a couple more questions for you before we get into the story. So,
Chilling.
uh, how do you differentiate what could be read as a horror novel versus a dark romance? So, like, an example would be something equivalent to, let's say, like Haunting Adeline or like Does It Hurt? Those books have a lot of like really, really, which both of them I read and I enjoyed one of them. But I they have a lot of very serious dark undertones that if read one way could be very scary for some people. But how do you differentiate as like as an author and as an actor, um, that line?
So, um, I think from romance in general to the subgenre of dark romance, or really it's become kind of a genre in and of itself, I feel like. Um, I think the line that you have to walk over to get from romance to dark romance is probably one of obsession. I think that that's, I haven't thought this through. So this is sort of the first time I'm saying this out loud, but it feels to me like what happens in a dark romance is that there is a level of infatuation and connection to a character that goes beyond a traditional relationship. So you often see themes like where the character is stalking the other character, or in the case of somebody like Arrow Westwood or Malachi Vise, where they are singularly obsessed with the protection of this one person. Bryony and Olivia are everything to those characters. Like the whole rest of the world is in soft focus, and they are the only thing that is in sharp focus. That's dark romance to me. That is, when that happens,
Yeah.
there's something that's dangerous. Like that's not
Right.
that can lead you to
Yeah, at
places.
any second this can go wrong.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
because if any one thing happens to that singular dynamic, the whole rest of your orbit is blown out of whack. And of course, in these stories, the dramatic tension then takes place because things are happening to those characters. And so that character now has the mission to protect this person at all costs. And the best dark romances are the ones that really play with what is possible inside the space of at all costs.
Yeah.
So from dark romance to horror, or maybe more specifically, the pieces I've worked on, which are more like erotic horror, I think there the differentiation is actually the does love beat the neuroses, or does the mental condition or the past trauma or the scars that the character carries, do those win out over the love?
So does the good win over the evil in the end is
I
like
won't call, I
the
won't call it good or I won't call her good or
okay.
I
Yeah.
really
But
don't. As
the
a performer, because I'm inhabiting these characters, I'm very, very delicate about assigning values to
okay, yeah.
characters because people sit inside their own skin and they act from a place of motivation. People do
Hmm.
what they do because they're motivated in some way to do those things, and where they act against their own best interests, that's where we start to look at things like addiction or obsession and various forms of like clinical conditions. So in the space of like erotic horror or dark, so in dark romance, the clinical condition loses out to love in the end. Like they get the love, and so the edges of the psychosis soften. In erotic horror, the edges of the psychosis beat down and push back any of those feelings of love or connection. And so the character remains incapable of connecting to another. And it is in human connection that we feel whole and that we are able to kind of, again, to soften. So, yeah, I think that that's the space where those two things diverge.
Mhm.
That's a really good way to put that
Yeah.
and makes my little heart warm.
Yeah.
This is like,
Yeah.
I've never been asked this before. I'm thinking about this in real time. And,
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what we
Yeah, that makes
wanted. We
sense.
wanted
Yeah.
like a raw answer about it because these are things that like we ask all the time because like using like the books that I stated previously, which we can bleep out, but I found one of those books like really hard to listen to as a survivor. You know, I listened to a lot of it and I was like, wow, this is not a dark romance novel. This is a horror novel. Like this is scary to me. And I know that like it for other people, like same thing. Everybody perceives things differently. So for some people, it's like taking their power back. You know, it's like this is something that I choose to read. This is something that like I'm putting my energy into. So I'm controlling the narrative, and this is like my thing. And which I commend 100%. Like I think that's beautiful when people are able to do that. But for me, I like my perception of it is scary, which is the main purpose of this episode is to show that
Right.
like every person's perception is different, and especially when you have a voice backing it, like there's some sort of audio driving it. Because same thing, if you're reading a text, it's going to be way different than having a conversation with somebody in person. Like that, you have to have that like tone and that diction and the body language. I mean, which you can't see in an audiobook, but you can tell, you can tell if somebody's kind of like leaning over in the audio booth. Like it all comes through when you're a voice actor. So it's so important how that deviates in every story and off perception. So
I
yeah.
often tell,
Yeah.
I often say that the microphone doesn't lie. Um, Whatever intentionality you pour into the words, that microphone is gonna pick it up and it's gonna share it. Um, yeah, because it's a very intimate, quiet space, and these microphones are very sensitive, actually.
Hmm.
And once you get them dialed in and you understand where you need to be in relationship to it, um, it's going to pick up not just the words, but the energy and the intention behind those words. And now, as people listen to them with noise canceling headphones or in super loud car stereo systems where the rest of the world is really shut out, it's
Yeah.
they that intention is loud and clear, and the feelings behind the words, they're felt and they are heard.
Yeah. Joe, have you heard of a book called Perfect Days? I think Addie, I made you read it.
No.
Yes,
Um,
the
it
murder
is,
one.
yes, it is such a weird little book, and I love it so much. It's this Brazilian author, and I think kind of like what you were saying, it popped in my head when you were talking about the line between love and obsession and when it crosses. And I feel like this book is a really good snapshot of if you lean fully into the dark horror obsession part, but if you just reword those slightly, I mean, I feel like that's a dark romance novel all over it.
Yeah.
Um, so
Well,
yeah, it's just
I did one by an author named Luna K. Wicked called Painter's Obsession. It was released in
mhm,
2 volumes, and it is the line between. It's an erotic horror, and I think that the main factor that keeps it out of the dark romance space is that the main character, the guy I play, Ren Sato, is incapable of letting human connection soften his trauma and
yeah,
his hurt and his anger at the world just continues to dictate and motivate his choices. And so he chooses violence instead of love at every possible turn. And
mhm,
yeah, yeah. But I would love to read that book. Or if there's an audio,
yeah,
maybe listen to it. Or if
yeah.
there isn't, maybe I could do it.
Yeah, pitch yourself out there.
You know what? Actually, yeah. Um,
Okay, last two
so
questions are very quick. Jasmine, you go ahead.
okay, so when writing, what do you use as your inspiration? Where do you pull from?
um, I pull from everything. Um, I just wrote a scene. I took a first crack at a scene for Asher, which is the book two, the book I'm writing right now with DJ, the book, second book in the Lost Souls Chronicle, where I actually had this very vivid memory of a painting that I had seen in a museum once. Is this very ashen man sitting on the edge of a bed, and a woman is laying on the bed, not moving, and he looks. I don't know that I've ever seen grief painted more effectively. And his child or children are like clinging to his legs, and the hopelessness and the anxiety and the sadness of this painting. I don't remember when I saw it or where I saw it, whether it was in New York or Florence, or I don't remember. I can't remember the it's a famous there's several iterations of this scene, but the one that I saw, it stuck with me, and I was working on this one scene and I just imagine it, like the painting just kind of came into my head, and I don't describe the scene. It wasn't appropriate like for the actual moment, but the energy of it, the feeling that I remember feeling when I was face to face with that painting and that painter and that creation and that sadness and that grief and that loss and that hopelessness, all of that was there, and I think that was channeled through the keys in that moment to get whatever words I got down there. So it can come from anywhere. Sometimes I'll have a conversation and like one sentence, and I'm like, oh, that was a good sentence. Or somebody will say something, I'm like, that is a very pithy phrase, or what a wonderful joke, or whatever. And maybe I'll jot it down, and maybe it goes somewhere, and maybe it doesn't. But I think we're all capable of drawing inspiration from so many things in life because the world is wonder. So.
Yeah, ever evolving. Do you have any music that gets you in the headspace for voice acting or writing? Is there any sort of like you're like, I gotta lock in, I'm turning on this playlist?
Yes, yes. 1,000% yes. Music is so critical to my creative process. I listen to music when I'm voice acting all the time, especially doing these dark romances when I really kind of try and immerse and create a whole scene. Music is the bridge for me. Music gets me there. There are certain songs that I know have a personal resonance for me. And so if I'm like, all right, a character is about to face a certain feeling, if there's a song that I can listen to that will help gently nudge me closer to that feeling, then I'm ready to dive in once the chapter starts. And then sometimes there's just a mode or an energy for a scene, and I'm like, hey, this artist will really help me capture that sensibility. This will really kind of get me into that headspace. I think music is an incredibly powerful tool to affect mood and to put us into headspaces. There's certain like really angsty like hard rock that I can listen to that I've actually listened to so much that it's almost become like classical music to me. Like Falling in Reverse and
Yes.
Yep.
Breaking Benjamin and yeah,
Have you listened to Sleep Token?
oh, I listened to tons of Sleep Token.
Okay, amazing. Wow, we're quick friends. I love Sleep Token. I'm actually writing I've never written, I mean I wrote on Wattpad when I was in high school, but I'm writing a full book, a Sleep Token fanfic for my best friend. It's like turned into a whole thing. It's like 200 pages now. It has a whole backstory and a whole world and lore and whatnot, but been listening to a lot of Sleep Token. So
Extremely cinematic and very orchestral, and it has a very operatic feel to it, and it's so
Yeah.
yes.
like it feels big. The feelings of
Yeah.
songs, and they're a great vessel to navigate into some of those creative spaces. I think they're a really wonderful band. My favorite band of all time is probably Tool, and I actually
Hell yeah.
I see a lot of antecedents in Tool's work in Sleep Token that kind of
Yeah.
take you on a journey. Kind of, it's almost like Sleep Token for me is it's a little bit like Tool meets Fish. Like it's actually got that kind of like
You know,
Yeah. Honestly,
there's
you're
a
on a
jam
journey.
bandy quality to Sleep Token. There's some of those where there's a sort of a riff in the middle, and it just kind of goes
yeah. Little
musically.
symphonic, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, isn't there's one track that's like out of nowhere. There's just some saxophone. Is that Caramel?
Yeah, yeah. Caramel was. I actually saw them live where we're at in October last year, and they had like a full like symphony set. It was crazy.
Yeah, so yeah, music absolutely, and Sleep Token and some of that, some of the sort of darker cinematic kind of vibes. There's lots of artists in that. Rosenfeld, this Parisian like dude, that's got this kind of sexy, mellow vibe to it, and that helps. If I know that two people are closing that door and they're about to explore intimacy and body and feeling together, listening to a song that has already explored that is a nice way to set myself up for being where I need to be to do that. So, absolutely.
Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, that was it. That
Yeah.
was all of our questions. So now
Hey,
I guess we can
Yeah.
go into the
Let's
story.
there's a scripty thing, right? And there's a link.
uh-huh.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. You
Um,
are yellow.
yeah, it's like yellow orangey color.
Okay, so we're not reading the same piece. I've seen the highlights. So
Mhm.
Yes.
purple,
So
green, and yellow.
correct. Yeah. So Jasmine will read the purple, I'll read the green, and then you'll read the orange. And then you can read this like however you would like to read it. You're cold reading, so however you'll hear kind of the backstory between the two of us, and then you can decide where to go with
Okay.
your
All right.
part.
That's it. So no, no, it's just deep end, dive in, find the floaties, and then when it's your turn, I'm going to go.
Yep.
Yeah, you got this. You seem like a strong swimmer, so all right. I know you are watching me. I have to give some context to start this off. I live in a complex. My unit is technically conjoined. It's the same building but split in half, so all of our yards are side by side. There are also garden beds in all the backyards that are roughly 2 feet taller than ground level. I'm a 22-year-old woman and I live with two other people and my dog. I know there's someone that watches me from my garden at night when I'm outside and inside. I can hear them sometimes, and I've seen them move before. It started around 6 months ago, and I think they're getting braver.
The first instance I remember was taking my dog outside at night to do his business. I sat down on a hanging chair I have in my backyard, closer to the garden. I was watching TikToks on my phone when I could have sworn that I heard someone cough. I paused my phone and looked around, trying to listen for any noise, but I heard nothing. When I was just about to press play again, I heard what sounded like someone stepping on something crunchy, leaves or sticks, I'm not quite sure, which immediately made me get this sick feeling in the bottom of my stomach. Quickly, I ran back inside with my dog. Little instances like this have been going on rather consistently since then. However, a couple nights ago, there was a new weird thing that happened. I was getting the creeps, as per my routine lately, and went inside. As I was closing my back door, I saw this little white light peeking out of the bushes. This immediately struck me as weird because the streetlights behind my unit glow orange, and we don't have any garden lights, so I couldn't figure out what it might be. I saw that twice in a row and haven't seen it since. Maybe a camera?
Recently, I saw you for the first time since you started watching me. You moved when you thought I wasn't looking and accidentally moved partially into the soft lighting. I know you're watching me as I type from the safety of my lounge room. I know this because I just saw you again. You're getting closer. So, to the person watching from my garden, please go away and let's not meet ever.
You're so good at this. Update. I went out again
Natural.
tonight with I went out again tonight with my dog, and as I was sitting out there, I heard what sounded like maybe a popping noise with someone's mouth. It scared me so bad I ran inside. Maybe I'm just paranoid.
As of today, I haven't had any sightings since uploading this. Maybe they saw the post? I have no idea, but hopefully it's the end.
I will say we can tell who was a professional reader out of the three of us. That was really good. I was like instantly gripped.
I thought everybody
Give
did.
you the
Yeah.
whole audiobook.
I thought everyone did a great job. Good way to go.
Thank you.
Yeah. I
We
don't
Yeah,
practiced.
have this. I was like,
we did. We did actually practice like 5 times today. We were at our work office because we also work together. We were at our work office, sitting in my little office, and we were like, "Okay, let's read it again."
well, good job. That was a ton of fun.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely like, I mean, even just I really hope, I'm sure our listeners will be able to tell the difference, but even me sitting here, I'm like like it could have gone like either way, but I feel like you like really brought in the like the fear and the like angst to it. Like you could like feel the like unknown and like is this girl safe? Is she like going to look out her window and something's going to be there, or like she's directly calling out this person like watching them. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's terrifying. Like these, if those kinds of things are happening, like it's terrifying. So, um, yeah, just
yeah.
think about how
Yeah.
I might feel if that was happening, and how it would be, heart would be racing, my chest would feel tight, and I'd have a hard time getting full senses out, and maybe my hands would be shaking a little bit, and yeah.
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 We read this one story, which is actually kind of what triggered this idea. Was a few, like a month or so or two ago, we read this story about this girl who went on a hike with this guy and her friend's boyfriend. And her friend and her boyfriend wandered off and left her with this guy just by herself, stranger, and they're hiking in the middle of the woods. And she feels a blade go next to her throat, which is jarring. You don't know this person, and she has a response of giggling instead of like fight, flight, or freeze or any of those. She kind of giggles, and he immediately like takes the pocket knife down, and he's like, "Oh, that's my type of girl. Like I knew that you would laugh. That's why I did it, and now I know that we're compatible." And that spurred the idea for Jasmine and I. We're like, why is it that there is such a weird line? And I mean it comes down to like disclosure and consent, like beforehand, like you have to know that person before you're just walking up behind somebody and putting anything to their throat. But then again, like people also have to remember that these things, these dark romance novels, they're works of fiction. They're not meant to for a stranger to like actually follow through with these kind of things. Like this, there's too many people on the internet that are like reading these things and being like, yeah, I can do that, and then going out into the real world and doing that, and then being like, oh, she laughed, so I'm getting away with it, kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is fiction. These are all fictional. I like to do everything I can to immerse myself in the imagination of these stories and then let them go. I release the
Mhm.
characters and I take care of my own mental health and spend time in those feelings and then release them and let it go. And at no point do I think that in the space of dark romance, I am reading uh, almost anything that is advocating for healthy real life relationships.
Mm-hmm.
However, I have heard from a lot of people that their real life and real world trauma and pain has found a soothing space in these fictional stories. But it is because of what you mentioned, the consent going in, knowing that this is fictional, and when done well, uh, delivered with a trigger list or chapters that may even set up some things. I work with an author named Shell Rose, and there's a couple chapters in her books actually that are so intense that she puts just a little paragraph. I believe CJ Sweet has done this as well in books, where there's just a warning, and it's like inside of this chapter are these themes, generally like very intense essay themes. Here's a synopsis. If for you it's best that you just sort of vaguely know what's happening to keep the plot together, so you don't have to dive into that if that's going to be too much for you. So the conversation on the front end gives people permission to make a decision that is safe for them in the middle, and everybody can come out the backside of that thing feeling safer and whole. That's it. And
Exactly. Yeah. And it's the consent that the reader is giving to the author, like as they like read through their okay, this book has all of this in here, so I know that going into it.
Well, Joe, thank you so much for being here and helping us get through the story. It is enlightening to hear the dramatic difference between tone and inflection and what that has on perception.
Where can everyone find you, Joe? And do you have anything that you would like to share that our listeners would like to know about? Any new works or anything coming up besides your shows that you mentioned earlier? But if you want to repeat the days and locations so people can find those.
yeah, I'm findable pretty much everywhere at the real Joe Arden. Uh, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Um, I do have the Audio Attic, which is a Patreon subscriber community. I do live recordings in there. There is a Discord community. There's regularly scheduled content, some of it that is like leans into affirmations and weekly kind of discussions. And I do improv in there actually. Like I cover so many different things. And so that is at patreon.com/Joe Arden. So you can check that out if you wanted to. And then I will be at a couple events upcoming this year. a couple bookstores, a book con, and then I will be in Los Angeles doing my Soul to Take Unhinged in the Hudson Theater in the heart of the Hollywood area in the middle of October. There's 4 dates. 16, 17 is a weekend. Those shows are already sold out. However, we added shows on Tuesday and Wednesday of that week. I believe it's the 20th and the 21st. There are still a few tickets available for those 2 days. The theater is really cool. It's a really intimate space. It's a 99-seat theater, which LA has a lot of, but it's so everybody's got a really great seat, and it's a very cool layout. It is also where the now Broadway musical Heathers got its very first run. So I'm very excited to be doing a show on the same stage that Heather's got its first workshop at, because I think that that movie and that musical are so incredible.
Mhm.
So yes, that's happening. Grimm is out in print, ebook, and audio. I'm particularly proud of the audio. I co-wrote the story with DJ Krimmer. I also directed the audiobook production. It's a 6-actor cast. It was recorded live and in person. Everybody was in the same studio. I also worked with several very talented musicians and sound engineers to write and score original music for the audiobook and to add a really gentle sound bed to add a sort of soundscaped dynamic to it without it being sort of overly intense, I think. So there's original music in the audiobook and sound effects and an incredible cast. And so that's out now. And then Asher is coming out this fall. And I can't wait. We're getting the gang back together. We're going to record this one live and in person again as well. And get that out there for folks to listen to later this year. So those are the things I'm particularly excited about that are on my radar for the rest of this year.
That's
Oh
amazing.
yeah,
And
busy year. Yeah.
yeah, we're so incredibly grateful for you coming on and giving us a look into the world of dark romance.
This really has been a special experience, very thoughtful, very insightful. And we hope that one day we can do something with you again. We got to do a trip out to LA and see your show.
That would be incredible. It's been a pleasure chatting with you both. I really appreciate your time and your energy, really thoughtful questions, and it's been a really dynamic and engaging conversation for me. So I've been really glad to be a part of it.
Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, it's been literally like this is a dream for us. So it's been such a blessing. We really appreciate it, and we hope that we can do something again soon. So thank you so much for coming on and being a part of our show, Joe. And we'll be in touch, obviously. We'll send you links and whatnot. So please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Everything is what was that underscore the pod, or you can email us at what was that dot the pod at gmail.com.
Maybe next time we can. Wait, what was that?